In solo leveling, when Ashbourne reappeared in front of the monarchs, who had taken their chances to escape to the crack between dimensions, the King of Dragons did not permit any kind of fighting, knowing that it was time for them to recover their strength. As such, he gladly allowed the Shadow Monarch to join his forces. Ashbourne then explained to Jinwoo that they were searching for a new world for the sake of building up their new army. This made Jinwoo guess if he meant Earth, which the Shadow Monarch confirmed, informing Jinwoo that to the humans, the appearance of the monarchs must have seemed very unprecedented, causing their annihilation to be inevitable. Seeing the cities going up in a sea of flames, Jinwoo noted that he had seen this scenery before. The Demon Castle. Glancing over at the ruined city, Jinwoo asked if this was what would happen in the future, but the Shadow Monarch corrected him, telling him that this was a record of the past. Jinwoo turned to Ashbourne, confused, and asked what he meant by that. Ashbourne explained that if the monarchs' reason for existence was destruction, then the reason for the existence of the rulers was to maintain this world after the death of the absolute being. When the rulers belatedly detected the movements of the sovereigns and sent their armies, everything had already come to an end. Naturally, the rulers grew angry at the fact that the army of the chaos world they failed to eradicate had managed to bring destruction upon another world. So, in order to correct this, they used their tool containing the power of the absolute being, which they had prohibited themselves from using. It was the tool of God, the cup of reincarnation. It was an incredible artifact that could turn back time by 10 years. The rulers used everything they had in order to save this world. But the current Earth was far too weak to fight against the monarchs, and the Earth, where no magical energy resided, could not endure the mass-scale battles. Whether the monarchs or the rulers won the battle, the impact brought upon the planet would remain the same. Thus, the rulers made a drastic decision. If they couldn't save everyone, they wanted to make sure that at least some would survive, so those people could continue on in this world. Jinwoo realized that this was how hunters were created, and the Shadow Monarch added that they were making human beings capable of surviving the collision between the two forces. The rulers wanted the humans to survive, no matter what they had to do. Jinwoo was alarmed as he questioned whether society could really operate normally if those who could survive in the changed world realized that, with the exception of the small number of people who are hunters, everyone else must die. This made him realize that the Demon King is a fragment of memories left behind by the Shadow Monarch. He then asked the Shadow Monarch if this world had already gone through countless annihilations. The monarch agreed, informing Jinwoo that although the higher beings are not able to go against the flow of time, they are able to perceive the change in the flow of time created by the cup of reincarnation. While the rulers tried to fix their mistakes several times, the monarchs also began modifying their plan continuously until the tool of God could no longer be used. Jinwoo then asked if Ashbourne was implying that there is a limit to the cup of reincarnation. Glancing at Jinwoo, the monarch responded that there is no such thing as infinite power, just like how the absolute being, who was capable of creating worlds, was eliminated by his own creations. This made Jinwoo question how the creations were able to kill their creator. The monarch explained that it is no different from humans dying from machines they themselves had created. They were created to fight, and their powers were more than enough to bring down their own creator. Then, the sovereigns utilized the rulers' methods to create a plan of their own, similar to how rulers lent power to humans so they could kill magical beasts and strengthen the world. Monarchs would also borrow a human's body to descend into the world, bringing their armies far earlier than the expectations of the rulers. They planned to use the magical energy that was spread around the planet by the rulers to turn the entirety of Earth into one large trap. Jinwoo realized that they could devour the rulers' armies coming to aid humanity in one blow. The monarch confirmed this silently. Since for a monarch, who possesses incredible power to cross over into this world, they would need a host body capable of handling that power. Because Ashbourne and the Monarch of Destruction possessed powers too great, they could not find humans suitable to be their hosts. However, at that time, one of the most capable mages working under a king came to the Shadow Monarch with a proposal, promising that they were willing to find him a suitable human. That mage, called the Architect, asserted that they would give assistance, but only in return for an imperishable body. But unfortunately, no living thing could become a vessel to contain death. The Architect, with the system he had designed, searched high and low for one talented in sensing magic power, one with prodigious physical power, one with superiority, one with a great mentality. He searched for a human whose strength would match Ashbourne's powers, and the search was not an easy one. However, in the midst of his scavenging, he found someone who bested his system, someone who rewrote the rules of his game and exceeded his expectations. Jinwoo, who was always weak, always closest to death, and yet evaded death again and again. He watched Jinwoo, and even in opposition to the architect, he picked Jinwoo. The monarch then repeated what he said to Jinwoo, proclaiming that he, the Shadow Monarch, is the record of his struggles, the evidence of his resistance, and the reward of his pain. But Jinwoo reasoned with the monarch, realizing that even though he had exceeded the architect's expectations, he must not have been enough to handle Ashbourne's power. Which the monarch explained, that is the reason why the architect used objects of human skill and human preference to adjust to the Shadow Monarch's strength. The games and recreation, by using those to fuel Jinwoo's amusement, the architect's system, which used his power, transformed Jinwoo's body, level by level, to match Ashbourne. Making Jinwoo realize why there was a reason the system had an analogous appearance to a game, especially with the player aspects of it. And he remarked that the Shadow Monarch betrayed the architect and asked why. The monarch then noted that he pondered on which side he should stand on, considering the ruler's apology and the betrayal of the monarchs, so he made a decision, and noted that he wanted it to be that way. The time he spent with Jinwoo was so blissful that perhaps he did not want to lose him. So he became Jinwoo, and Jinwoo became Ashbourne. But no matter who becomes the owner of this body, it will not be strange, for they are already one. Therefore, he will offer Jinwoo a choice. He could stay in this domain of death, and enjoy the eternal dreams he has created for himself, and he could choose to rest. However, if that is not Jinwoo's choice, he will be sent to reality once more, and once again, fight his adversaries. Jinwoo brought up how he had said he had made his decision, but did not stand with the leaders. Asking why he escaped to the other world with the monarchs, even though his will to fight the rulers had long dissipated. The monarch responded that it was because that place did not offer a place for him. Jinwoo smiled, noting that his answer was the same as the monarch's, and remarked that this was not a place where he should be. This surprised the monarch, making him slowly smile as he gave Jinwoo a fulfilled expression. Jinwoo then asked him if this was the last time he would be seeing the monarch, to which the monarch responded that he would return to rest. But Jinwoo, the Shadow Monarch, would live an imperishable life. Thus, the crossing of their paths was quite unlikely. He added that with death, Jinwoo's power had become absolute, before guiding him on the way to return. But Jinwoo interrupted, saying that he knew because he was the Shadow Monarch, and the Shadow Monarch was him. Jinwoo looked up as he closed his eyes, accepting the power of the Shadow Monarch as he muttered, "Arise." At that moment, the system notification appeared, informing Jinwoo, deletion code of player nurturing system has been entered. The system will now be deleted. Any power limits on the player will now be removed. With no more limitation of the power, all commander rank shadow soldiers will regain their full power potential. The power of commander rank soldier Igris has been restored. The abilities of commander rank soldier Beru have risen significantly. The Shadow Monarch Ashbourne is returning to the world of eternal void. Would you really like to delete the system? Yes. Then, light emitted through as the system vanished, and little by little the white light turned into a purple swirl, resembling the Shadow Monarch's aura. As Jinwoo accepts the full power of the monarch, it sends a powerful shockwave into the real world, knocking back the Frost Monarch and the Beast Monarch. The Frost Monarch then yells at the fragment of brilliant light, telling him that the worst disaster is coming from the body of the human he is trying to protect, and questions if he is truly bringing disaster upon this world by his own hands, asking if he is really risking his life to aid the Shadow Monarch's revival. Just then, the Beast Monarch informs the Frost Monarch that they do not have much time, prompting the Frost Monarch to prepare for the incoming battle as the fragment of brilliant light raises his dagger, ready for retaliation. The two monarchs face off against the fragment of brilliant light before lunging at each other with immense speed. The Frost Monarch and the Beast Monarch, filled with killing intent, leap toward the fragment, but his eyes follow their movements as he slips through the Frost Monarch's attack and blocks the Beast Monarch's claws from reaching him. With blinding speed, the fragment outmaneuvers them and stabs the Frost Monarch. As blood spurts from the Frost Monarch's shoulder, he notes that the fragment is reading the trajectory of his spear and moving accordingly. Meanwhile, the Beast Monarch observes that the fragment has the movements of a warrior who has experienced countless battles, seeing that he is barely avoiding the Frost Monarch's attacks while fending off all of his at the same time. At that moment, the Frost Monarch towers behind the fragment, ready to blast him with ice magic, only to receive a back kick to the jaw that sends him hurling through a nearby building. Suddenly, the Beast Monarch lunges at the fragment with his jaw wide open but gets a dagger shoved into his mouth, causing him to howl in pain before receiving a heavy elbow strike to the gut. In retaliation, the Beast Monarch attempts to grab the fragment, who quickly dodges his grip. Removing the fragment's dagger from his jaw, he threatens to tear him apart, only for his eyes to widen in shock as he senses something. Alarmed, he immediately takes a defensive stance. Sweat drips down his face as he glances behind him, feeling the immense aura coming from the frozen Shadow Monarch, making Raken terrified as he swiftly springs back. At that moment, the Frost Monarch recovers from the rubble, declaring that the fragment's attack will not work on him again. The Frost Monarch urges Raken to launch another attack. However, the Beast Monarch disagrees, noting that he will stop now. This makes the Frost Monarch yell at him, questioning if he is out of his mind and remarking on why he is stopping after coming this far. Trembling, the Beast Monarch asks the Frost Monarch if he cannot feel that the mana surrounding them has started to cry and remarks that the Shadow Monarch is coming. As he tells the Frost Monarch to count him out of this, the Monarch angrily yells at him, reminding him of his promise to help defeat the Shadow Monarch. But as he opens a portal, Raken reasons that his promise was limited to when the Shadow Monarch was still in his human form. But since the real deal is coming, he remarks that he no longer has a promise to keep. The Frost Monarch berates him, saying he is running away with his tail between his legs even though he is the Beast Monarch. But Raken calmly argues that the Frost Monarch will not understand because he has yet to experience the full power of the Shadow Monarch. Walking through his portal, Raken tells the Frost Monarch that he shall pray for his fortune. And as Raken vanishes, the Frost Monarch calls him a foolish bastard, then declares for them to taste the terror of the frost, noting that this is his true power. Piercing his trident into the ground, he unleashes a powerful ice storm that slowly engulfs the battlefield. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, the hunters warn others to make sure not to get hit by the ice storm, notifying everyone that they are retreating and ordering them to leave the place at once. Just then, the Monarch's blizzard lifts up cars and rubble, hurling them around along with frozen spears. Prepared, the fragment watches the blizzard and parries all of the Frost Monarch's incoming attacks. The Frost Monarch then remarks that mere humans dare challenge him without knowing their place. He then raises his hand toward the sky, channeling his aura and forming a massive iceberg above, declaring for them to be trapped inside the eternal void with the Shadow Monarch. This distracts the fragment, who questions if the Frost Monarch is planning to destroy the entire area. Suddenly, a frosty blade pierces through his defense, striking his arm and causing him to groan in pain as he clutches it. At that moment, his eyes widen in despair upon seeing the massive iceberg hurtling toward their location at immense, when suddenly a shadow dashes forth, its claw colliding with the iceberg. It shatters with ease, revealing the most loyal Shadow Bearer, breaking through it effortlessly. Shielding the fragment with a demon longsword, another shadow steps forward and calls out to the Frost Monarch. It is Ygritte, one of the aura-bearing shadows, who tells the monarch not to assume the position of the king with only that much power. The Frost Monarch is in disbelief, realizing that Ygritte has broken out of his spell and that the commander-ranked shadow soldiers have regained their powers. A chilling realization strikes him as Jinwoo breaks through the ice, remarking that that's why he shouldn't trust prophecies. The two martial-grade shadows bow to Jinwoo, his aura filling the air as he wonders aloud if the Beast Monarch has fled. The Frost Monarch is frozen in fear as Jinwoo asks who dares to leave without his permission. In that moment, the Frost Monarch realizes he has stumbled upon an impenetrable wall, a wall he could never hope to overcome. Looking at Jinwoo, he understands that the difference in their power is simply too great. Suddenly, Jinwoo radiates an aura field that engulfs Seoul, spreads across Korea, sweeps over Asia, and finally envelops the entire world. Then, glancing toward a distant point, he mutters, "Found you." At that moment, the Frost Monarch feels it, an opening, an opportunity that will never come again. He thinks that although there is a vast power gap between them, for Jinwoo to lower his guard with his enemy right in front of him is a fatal mistake, and if he misses this opportunity, only inevitable death awaits. Charging an attack with everything he has, the Frost Monarch urges himself on. He must end everything with this single strike. Launching his trident with full force toward Jinwoo's position, he commits to the attack. As it closes in, Jinwoo slowly turns toward the weapon. Unfazed, he raises his hand and effortlessly blocks the attack, the trident shattering apart as the impact shakes the ground. In despair, the Frost Monarch realizes this is the power of the Shadow Monarch, the power of one of the strongest monarchs, and the fragment of brilliant light. He tells him to wait there patiently until he finishes taking care of the beast, noting that he'll save him for last. Meanwhile, deep within a faraway jungle, a portal opens, and the beast monarch exits it, remarking that the aura of death is starting to close in on him. He regrets needlessly arguing with the frost monarch, since it caused him to run away a bit too late. But now that things have come to this, he only needs to quietly hide there until the King of Dragons comes back. As his gate closes, a shadowy figure lingers, making the beast monarch nervously glance back as he senses the Shadow Monarch's aura. Jinwoo appears beside him like a ghost in a horror movie, noting that the air is soaked with the smell of death. Raken quickly kneels down, sensing the overwhelming power gap, that he can neither win nor run away. The fear of strength Raken feels, from his own experiences, causes him to lower his head and obey Jinwoo. This is what his instincts are warning him to do. Pleading with the Shadow Monarch, Raken declares that he, the King of Beasts, does not wish to fight against him, asking for Jinwoo's forgiveness for his sinful acts and to accept him as one of his allies. He informs him that in the near future, the King of Dragons will set foot on this land with his soldiers, and the Beast Monarch, along with his beast army, promises to assist him then. Jinwoo quickly accepts his plea, making the Beast Monarch smirk eerily as he thinks that he has convinced Jinwoo with his act. He reasons that if Jinwoo were the real deal, there would be no way he would forgive him, especially after he betrayed him once and tried to get rid of his vessel, causing his advent onto this land. However, he has bought time thanks to the human's foolish forgiveness and affection. Now he just needs to hold out until the King of Dragons arrives. And when that time comes, he will rip Jinwoo's corpse into pieces. As the Beast Monarch pledges his allegiance, Jinwoo remarks that before that, they need to take care of each other. Grasping his chest, Jinwoo mockingly tells Raken that he has 5 scars from his claws that pierced his heart, declaring that if the Beast Monarch can survive 5 attacks from him, Jinwoo will forgive him. This alarms the Beast Monarch as he slowly transforms into his true, massive wolf form, enraged that Jinwoo has the audacity to mock him, the King of Beasts. He declares that although his life will end here, he will not allow Jinwoo to leave unscathed. As he growls with fury, Jinwoo calmly summons his dagger, Kamish's Wrath. Blitzing through the trees with incredible speed, Jinwoo slashes through the tree line as well as the monarch, who wrenches in pain. Cutting the Beast Monarch's legs, Jinwoo mutters, 4 more left. Meanwhile, back in the city, the Frost Monarch notes that he doesn't know about the ant who is healing humans. But as he evades an attack, he adds that this one certainly is an issue. The Frost Monarch knew that he had seen it before. The Knight of Death, one of the 2 wings of the Shadow Army, the Night Shadow Ygritte, who is closing in on him. The monarch finds it quite bothersome since now Ygritte is able to use his full power. On top of that, they can regenerate as long as the Shadow Monarch still has mana, but he can't recover the mana he used for transformation. As Ygritte comes close, he quickly slashes at the monarch, who easily dodges it and remarks to not even think about doing something so meaningless, doubting if Ygritte thinks he can hold out much longer against him. However, Ygritte pays no attention to him as he pierces his sword into the ground. Jinwoo, composed, comes forth through Ygritte's cape, making an entrance fitting for a king like him. As Jinwoo drops the Beast Monarch's bloodfangs on the floor, the Frost Monarch's eyes widen in shock as Jinwoo informs him that the Beast Monarch is dead. This makes the Frost Monarch ponder how Jinwoo killed the Beast Monarch in the few minutes that he was gone. Just then, Jinwoo declares that the Plague Monarch, the Beast Monarch, and the Frost Monarch. The deaths of these 3 monarchs will serve as a warning to the other monarchs. Enraged by Jinwoo, the Frost Monarch bounces back as he tries to retaliate. Suddenly, he is hit with a dagger at blinding speed and then another one, making him draw in his breath, preparing to launch an ice breath, only for Jinwoo to clench his face and summon his dagger, forcefully slashing through his entire body. Jinwoo then tells him that the beast died on the 4th strike and wonders how much longer the Frost Monarch can survive. The Frost Monarch groans in pain as Jinwoo's first strike hits him, and with the second strike, the Frost Monarch's vessel breaks. With the third strike, he shatters completely and his fragments scatter up through the sky. Jinwoo was approached by Beru, who knelt before him as he questioned what happened to the person who had protected him earlier. Beru responded that he disappeared all of a sudden. Just then, Jinwoo's gaze shifted to the floor as he spotted a dagger and picked it up. Somewhere else, bloody handprints were left on the wall as he dragged his body and fell to the ground, leaning against it. Sung Il-won heavily gasped for air as his body slowly deteriorated, thinking that this was the consequence of receiving God's power with a mere human body. Accepting his fate, he remarked that it was fine since this was how it should be. Suddenly, his dagger was gently thrown at his foot, and Jinwoo asked if he really thought he wouldn't know if he left like that. Stepping closer, Jinwoo questioned why he had left without a word again as he called him, Dad. In Sung Il-won's flashback, a gate appeared, a giant hole that called forth demonic beasts. He recalled that after clearing the dungeon boss of the gate, you must escape the gate within an hour. However, he had no choice but to be trapped within the dimensional rift, sitting in a corner as his strength and will faded. Then the rulers arrived and lent him their strength, and in return they requested him to stop the monarchs, including the Shadow Monarch, who was soon to be born. After losing all means of escape, he had no choice. When he returned to Earth as the ruler's emissary with a heavy responsibility, he could not fulfill that responsibility. Seeing that the vessel of the Shadow Monarch was his own son, Sung Il-won sorrowed. Although he knew that the worst calamity of humanity resided inside that body, he could do nothing other than observe from a distance. Meanwhile, the rulers, whose sole focus was to stop the complete advent of the Shadow Monarch, started to change their stance. Finally, the brightest fragment of light issued him a new order, to protect the Shadow Monarch. They had realized that, in order to stop the monarch's plans, they needed the power of the Shadow Monarch. The only ones able to stop the destruction were the soldiers of the King of Dragons, who were going to arrive before the soldiers of the heavens. It was a huge gamble, not knowing whether they would side with the humans or the monarchs. But now, they knew the results, telling Jinwoo that was why he helped him. Sung Il-won remarks that he didn't want to show Jinwoo this side of him. Jinwoo's tears fall from his eyes as he calls out to his father, who asks him if he hated him. Jinwoo confirms, making his father sad as he apologizes. He tells his father that when he first started out as a hunter, when he was at death's door, when he barely survived to see his mom and Jinna again, his father appeared in his mind. Sung Il-won is mortified as Jinwoo adds that he always hated him whenever it happened. But his eyes widen as Jinwoo adds that despite all of that, he also missed him, and asks what about him. This makes Il-won emotional as he looks up to Jinwoo, who asks if he missed them too. Tears flood Il-won's eyes as he tells Jinwoo that he missed him all the time. And even though he could not see him, he was happy about the fact that he was able to see Jinwoo from afar. Slowly getting up as his body shatters, he stands and hugs Jinwoo tightly, telling him that he has grown well. Jinwoo cries as his father embraces him and clenches his fist, questioning if it's the rulers who are the ones controlling him and throwing him away. But Il-won assures Jinwoo that they simply gave him an opportunity to make a choice, and he chose to protect Jinwoo, and he doesn't regret a single thing about it. This puts Jinwoo at ease as he also embraces his father, who fades, saying that he wanted to talk to Jinwoo more. He wanted to stay with him longer, and faintly smiled as he apologized to Jinwoo that he couldn't be a great father to him, before completely shattering Jinwoo's grasp. Holding the light fragments of his father, Jinwoo forcefully clenches his fist and angrily screams his pain through the city. Meanwhile, in their apartment, looking out the window, Jinwoo's mother calls Jinna, inviting her to move out now. She tells her that she feels like they can move now, as tears run down her face, sensing the death of her beloved. Just then, Jinwoo screams his anger, calling out to the remaining monarchs to listen up, declaring that they will definitely pay the price for what happened today. The day that the Shadow Monarch's outcries shook the world was the day when the prelude to war began, flying over the wreckage of the battle. Reporters broadcast that Hunter Thomas Andre is not in a life-threatening condition. They can see that ambulances on the scene are transporting the injured to local hospitals, and the monsters that massacred the citizens have stopped moving. Only their traces remained after they turned into ashes. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was back with his family, embracing Jinna and his mom. Back in the ruined city, Choi Jong-in checks on Baek, speaking to him sarcastically. Meanwhile, Chairman Woo Jin-chul watches on, guessing that it's already over now, as he thinks about the beast-type demonic beast, the woman that attacked the city just now, and the White Walker. He recalls what Jinwoo had promised him at Chairman Go Gun-hee's funeral, and his tears fall when he realizes that the killer was the White Walker Jinwoo had slain. Jin-chul drops his head in his busy office and silently thanks Jinwoo. A few days later, the Hunter Bureau announced that the monsters that appeared in the city are unidentifiable demonic beasts, and the damage done to the city was tremendous. However, the true calamity was about to come in a few days. Thousands of hunters gathered in Seoul, including Lu Zigang, who was amazed by the gate's size and remarked that it's massive, just like he'd heard. And even if all the hunters in the world gathered, they could just be sucked into that gate and vanish. Gazing above, Thomas calmly noted that it will start soon, making the other hunters alert. While Jin Chul thought that this is the first time so many hunters from all around the world have gathered in one place, and wondered how many of them will survive. Meanwhile, Jinwoo, away from everyone, looked at the gate with pure focus. Worried, Mommy Cha approached Jinwoo, telling him that she had never seen him this nervous before, making Jinwoo wonder. His eyes stayed fixed on the massive gate as he pondered that soon, the gate will open. Suddenly, the massive gate above began to crack, alarming all the hunters to prepare for battle. Just then, wings with a shadowy aura emerged from it, making the hunters remark that it's a massive army. However, Jinwoo's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw an army of shadowified silver soldiers, along with massive dragons emerging from the gate. And then came the last shadow to step out, emitting an aura and majesty that set him apart from the rest. Hunters shouted their battle cries as they prepared to commence their attack, with the mages and support units positioned behind them. Suddenly, their movements came to a halt as an immense pressure filled the air. Jinwoo had ordered them not to move. As the ceasefire was relayed, Chairman Woo Jin Chul stepped closer to Jinwoo, asking why he had stopped the hunters. Jinwoo calmly assured him that it's all right. At that moment, the majestic soldier descended slowly, flanked by the rest of the army. Choi Jong-in's eyes widened in alarm, wondering if they truly intended to face that many demonic beasts without striking them while they were still in midair. Jinwoo, slightly hesitant, took a slow step forward toward the massive descending army and the towering beast leading them. As Jinwoo stood face to face with the beast, their gazes locked, until suddenly the shadowed figure dropped to one knee, shattering the ground beneath him. With pride and reverence, he introduced himself as the Grand Marshal, Bellion. Immediately, the rest of the shadow soldiers followed Bellion's lead, bowing deeply to Jinwoo, paying homage to their liege. The hunters, along with the chairman, were stunned. Even Thomas André was taken aback, asking Leonard Nairman if he could see the shadow dragons, pointing out that even a single one could threaten humanity. Yet there were 3 gathered here in one place. As Jinwoo realized this was the true shadow army, he thought to himself that this must be what the previous Shadow Monarch, Ashbourne, had left behind for him. Recalling the shadows he had painstakingly gathered through his struggles, Jinwoo smirked and remarked, "Now's the start of the real war."